Ruchem Habayim. I'd like to give a special welcome to all the parents and grandparents and family members of our inductees this morning. This morning I mentioned to the boys, why are we having this induction ceremony in front of the whole yeshiva? We should have a private ceremony just for these 13 boys. And I pointed out that the last people in the room who actually want this ceremony honoring them are the people who do the chesed, because the people who we're honoring this morning do it lishma, they do it to help other people. And in that sense, that's why we're doing it in front of the whole school, because they are role models in terms of how simple acts done by regular people can really change people's lives and can make a tremendous difference in society. And we want to make that point to the whole yeshiva community. We want to make that point to all of our students about the importance of reaching out to others. And when I was thinking about, especially today being Yom Yerushalayim, the pasuk says about Yerushalayim, Yerushalayim habnuya ki ir shechubra la yachdav. The rebuilt city of Jerusalem is a city, Ir Shechubra La Yachdav. It's a city that literally unites the entire Jewish world. It's a city where we all come together. It's a city that speaks about the unity of Am Yisrael. It's a central location and place where we come to worship Hashem, and we come to experience the entire Am Yisrael. How many times can all of us say we've had the privilege of visiting the Kotel, visiting the old city of Yerushalayim, what that means to the Jewish people, what it means to the Achdus of the entire Jewish people. When I was thinking about who to ask to come to be our keynote speaker this morning, anyone knows where I build it knows that if I speak more than 30 seconds about it, he will probably take out a gun and shoot me.
Even more than 1 second. Get up and talk. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Right. Rabbi Bill is, of course, the rabbi of the Young Israel of Woodmere, one of the largest congregations in the United States. He's the spiritual guide to their 1,100 families, and everyone who knows him knows that especially in these areas, in the area of chesed, caring about people, in the area of the state of Israel, and focus on Yerushalayim, Eretz Yisrael, especially chesed in Eretz Yisrael, there are few people who have done from this country who have done as much for the state of Israel and for those organizations in need in Israel than Rabbi Billet. I thought it was a very appropriate, he's really the most appropriate person I could possibly think about to be our keynote speaker this morning. Please give me your undivided attention.
Okay, just the Yeshiva, the Rebbeim, parents, honorees, I thank Rabbi Kamenetsky for the opportunity and the honor to be here. I'm going to be a little boring for some people. I'm not making the same speech I made in shul yesterday. Some of you I know heard it, but I'm going to say that's part of my speech, because that really is the essence for me of my own personal Yom Yerushalayim experience. Just to the boys here, I will tell you that I was, like you, I was a high school student on Yom Yerushalayim, like you are today. But I was a high school student on Yom Yerushalayim, the real Yom Yerushalayim. And for me, it was a life-changing experience, being here in America, far away from the events. But it was something that is seared on my soul and in my memory, ad hayom hazeh. 48 years later. It's one of the few things I still remember at this stage of my life. So Rabbi Kamenetsky asked me to speak about Chesed and Yom Yerushalayim. So I'm going to tell you 3 stories. And I'm going to try to keep my speech more or less within the time limit, although I think I might go over a minute or 2. He asked me to speak about Chesed. So first let me tell you a little bit about a couple of people. Captain Yoram Zamush was a religious soldier. He was the head of Company A, his brigade unit. It was the brigade unit that entered Lions Gate, Shar Arayot, with Matagur, Uzi Narkis. How many of you know who Matagur is? Okay, a few people. Uzi Narkis. Okay, one person. Okay, and these are names of great Jews. Matagur was the Aluf Pikud Merkaz. He was the central commander of the IDF during the Six-Day War. Uzi Narkis was the commander of the Jerusalem effort of the IDF during the Six-Day War. Yoram Zamush's company was charged with going with Matagur and capturing the Temple Mount and the Kotel HaMaravi. Yoram Zamush, as the troops gathered in Jerusalem, they gathered off Rehov Herzl in Beit HaKerem, and they were near a home as they were planning the possible, it was uncertain at the time, the possible assault on the old city of Jerusalem. The government had hesitated for a while because they were worried about public relations with the world. It's something kind of thing that we worry about a lot, unfortunately. And anyway, when we were staying there, an old woman came out of her apartment. They were giving the soldiers something to eat. And she, her name was Mrs. Cohn, and she was the grandmother of the people he was talking with. And she said the following. I'm going to read you from a book by Stephen Pressfield, The Lion's Gate. "Take this," she said. Into my hand she placed the flag of Israel. "This I have kept," the grandmother said, "since my husband and I were driven from our home. It last flew in the old city, 1948, when they were driven out of the old city." The lady wept. "To this day, I feel her tears upon my back. I folded the flag and tucked it into my web gear. I promised Mrs. Cohn that if Brigade 55 should be given the order to liberate the old city, her flag would be the first to fly over its holy stones." No one took particular notice of this exchange. Then at the door, as we commanders were leaving to return to our companies, my friend Moshe Stempel caught my arm. He had overheard the conversation between me and the elder Mrs. Cohn. He had heard my promise. Stempel was number 2 in the brigade, second in command to Matagur. It was Stempel who had built the brigade less than a year ago, and he who had gotten me my post in it. "Zamush, do you have it safe? Zamush, do you still have the flag?" And time passed, and Company A, led by Yoram Zamush, entered the Har HaBayit. I have a picture of it here. And they didn't know where, they didn't know how to find the gate to the Western Wall, until an old Arab man from the Waqf, the Muslim authority, appeared with keys. And he showed them where the gate was. And he opened it with keys. And Zamush said, it reminded me of the Medrash. It said, when the temple was destroyed, the keys ascended to heavens. I felt as if the keys were given back to us. We passed through that gate and onto a terrace. The iron grillwork rises straight ahead. We hurried to it. It's right above the Kotel. Its sitting is perfect, lofty and prominent, visible from all directions, directly to the wall. Stempel extracts the flag from under my web gear. "You must write on it, Zamush." Stempel's hands are trembling. "I have been awash with emotion all morning. Now suddenly I find I am calm. What should I write?" From my breast pocket, I retrieve a pen, a beaten-up ballpoint that I've been using all week for writing situation reports and messages. I set the flag atop my knee, using my thigh as a writing surface, and I write, "This flag of Israel was placed here by paratroopers of the 55th Brigade." That was an act of chesed to an old woman, and the flag of Israel returned. The flag of Israel that flew in the old city returned to the old city. I have a picture of it if you want to see it later. Then I have another story. The other story, I'm going to ask you a question. Who was the man who blew the shofar at the Kotel when the Jews liberated the city? Okay. Did I hear people say Rav Goren? The answer is wrong. That is the story. That is the myth. Rav Goren tried to blow the shofar, but he couldn't blow the shofar because he was out of breath. The shofar was blown by a non-observant Jew by the name of Major Uzi Elam, and this is reported by Benny Rowan, who was attached to Battalion 71. I don't want to take anything away from Rabbi Goren. I love Rabbi Goren. Rabbi Goren stayed at the wall for hours. He was there when Rubinger took the iconic photograph of the three paratroopers gazing in wonder at the wall. You all know that picture, right? He was there when Dayan arrived with Rabin and Uzi Narkis. But that first blast on the ram's horn was not blown by Rabbi Goren. That was our battalion commander, Uzi Elam. Uzi is a trumpet player. He's been playing since he was a kid. When Rabbi Goren first came down to the wall, he was so overcome with emotion that he couldn't catch his breath. He put the shofar to his lips, but no sound came out. Uzi is a sweet, modest guy. He wasn't trying to make any statement. He just said in his quiet way, Rabbi Goren, I'm a trumpet player. May I try? I snapped the photo. And for years after, when people asked Uzi about that moment, he would never dispute Rabbi Goren's account. He didn't want to take anything away from the legendary personage. Even after Rabbi Goren had passed on, Uzi will still not put himself forward. He's that kind of guy. I have that picture also, and it's also in Avi Wright's biography, the Hebrew biography of Rabbi Goren. That's also an act of chesed, letting the other guy get the credit for something that he did. The cry, Harabayit B'Yadeinu, the cry of soldiers who said, we have to say Hallel. So people said, say it, but I don't know how to say it. Someone has to say it for us. The crying of soldiers who had no connection to Yiddishkeit, but felt something on that moment. When the Nazir, was Rav Goren's father-in-law, Rav Tzvi Yehuda Cook, were transported to the Kotel, people who saw them, they saw two old Jews with white beards, they said, oh, it must be Mashiach Tzidkenu and Eliyahu Hanavi. They came to the Kotel in front of the soldiers. And Mata Gur, who was not a religious man, saw the Nazir leaning against the wall. Mata Gur said, I'm not religious, but all my life I wanted to be the one who would bring the Kotel and Har HaBayit to the Jewish people. It was Mata Gur who said, Har HaBayit B'Yadeinu. And he said, and I saw when that old man was praying in the wall, he blended in with the wall and he carried with him the prayers of the Jewish people for all those thousands of years. And so my personal story, which I told in the shul yesterday, and I think it's an important one for all of you, is as follows. The Kotel was captured. The old city, I shouldn't say captured, the Kotel was liberated. The old city was reunited with the new city of West Jerusalem. There was a powerful picture that appeared in the New York Times on Wednesday of that week of the paratroopers with their flop hats praying at the Kotel. It was a picture that shouted out at you. On Thursday, there was a rally in Lafayette Square. There may be a few people in this audience who remember the rally at Lafayette Square Park in Washington. We went from all over. I fit in nowhere. I was a student at Yeshiva University High School in Brooklyn, Hamachuna BTA. I was a member of Bnei Akiva, Shevet Gilboa, Snif Ra'anana, and I went to Camp Monk. How do you manage that? Very, very difficult, especially in Camp Monk. And so we all go to Washington that day. Busloads and busloads. I remember Rav Schechter, the young Rav Schechter, and his wife were on the bus that I was on. Everyone went to Washington. We came to Lafayette Park, and it was total chaos. Shlomo Kalbach is there strumming his, doing his thing. I'm Yisrael, but no one's doing anything. Busloads came from Dan Yisrael with the black hats. Boys and girls from Bnei Akiva. Boys and girls from Hashomer HaTzeir. Girls in short skirts and shorts and sandalim. Girls in long skirts. Women with their heads covered, women without their heads covered. Men with black hats, men without kippot, men with, I don't know if the kippah sruga was big in those times, but men with the kippot that represented more the religious Zionist crowd. And then an announcement came over the loudspeaker. And the announcement was that the Egyptian army had surrendered in the Sinai. And suddenly, two huge circles of people, boys and girls, men and women, Charedim, Dati Le'umi, Chilonim, Apikorsim, didn't matter. We all formed two circles, and we was, now Shlomo Kalbach had an audience. And he was singing, Am Yisrael Chai, and the circles were the largest circles I ever saw in my life. And for me, it was the moment that I said, we are the Jewish people. We are one. It doesn't matter how you appear externally. It doesn't matter what you wear on your body or what you put on your head. We are the Jewish people. That was the ultimate act of chesed, because chesed means it's a circle. We're all responsible one for the other. That's what it's all about. The epicenter of the circle is the Ribono Shel Olam. And from the Ribono Shel Olam comes that responsibility that one Jew has for another Jew. One of the, and this is what I close with, one of the things that everyone remarks, and you could read every book, you could read Yossi Klein Halevi's book, They Were Like Dreamers, you could read Stephen Pressfeld's The Lion's Gate, you could read Michael Oren's book, 6 Days in June, and you can read the accounts of many, many, many different people who were there that day. And everyone was shocked by one thing, and that is that the paratroopers cried. It's almost heresy for an Israeli paratrooper to cry. Those with the red boots, if you know the tradition of the paratroopers, they never cry. They don't cry at the funeral of their friends. They don't cry over anything. But that day they cried. And there's a beautiful, beautiful poem. I know this is a Hebrew-speaking school, so you would have no difficulty with this poem. There's a beautiful poem written by Chaim Kefer. I won't read you the whole poem. I'll just read you the last 2 sentences, which says it all. איך זה קורה שהם נוגעים נרגשים בקיר? איך זה קורה שמן הבכי הם עוברים לשיר? How does it happen that they, the paratroopers, touch with feeling the wall? How does it happen that from their tears they broke into song? Yerushalayim Shel Zahav. אולי זה מפני שבחורים בני י"ט שנולדו עם קום המדינה נושאים על גבם 2,000 שנה. Perhaps it is because boys who are 19, and that was the age of the paratroopers in 1967, who were born with the establishment of the state in 1948, carry on their shoulders 2,000 years of Jewish history. And there was another poem written by Chaim Kefer, I believe, in which Yitzchak Rabin, Ge'ilu, comes to his king, David HaMelech, and he reports to him on the capture of Jerusalem. And he says to him, your army, the army of Israel, has reunited Jerusalem forever, the Olmei Olamim. Okay? Mazel tov to all of you on your induction on this very, very special day in Jewish history.
Thank you, Rabbi Billet. I would like to personally welcome all the parents and families to our annual Nedivei Lev Service Society induction ceremony. We take a lot of pride in the boys in Yeshiva that have fulfilled all their chesed hours, but this morning we'd like to recognize a few of the 12th graders who have gone above and beyond in the area of community service and giving themselves to others. The boys that are being honored today have demonstrated, not just with words, but with actions, what it means to give of oneself to help someone else. It is our hope that these boys serve as an example to the rest of the yeshiva to hopefully inspire other boys to get involved in the realm of chesed. I would like to thank all the organizations for taking time to come out this morning, and hopefully our connection to the yeshiva will continue for years to come. I would like to first introduce Mr. Andy Lauber, who is the coordinator and founder of Chai Lifeline's iShine program, to present the word to Moshe Keller and Jason Selesny.
Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting us, inviting me. I always say this every year. I really believe that more schools, and my kids are in different schools, I'm involved with many, many schools across the country, but really only DRS is the only school that does such an event. And I'm always moved by it, the Nedivei Lev event. You know, it's one thing to teach chesed, it's one thing to preach chesed, it's another thing to really make it this is a pillar that this school not only lives by, but is inculcated to each and every one of its students, that this is something that Yiddishkeit is Torah, or that it's not just, oh yeah, Milas Chasadim. It is the foundation of being a Jew. And to recognize that today is a very, very special thing that Hanhala and every single person here should be proud of. For those who don't know, iShine is an after-school program. It's a Chai Life and after-school program. We work with children that are living with illness or loss in their family. They had to have a brother or sister that's ill, or a parent that's ill, or a parent who passed away. It began here in the 5 towns in 2007. We just opened up 3 months ago our 9th location in Los Angeles, and it all stemmed right from here. The goal of the program is essentially to care for these children from A to Z. So the parents know that twice a week, their children will be cared for. They'll be picked up. Drivers, I'm sure many of you over here actually sitting here will drive for iShine. We have a pool of hundreds of drivers who pick up the children, and like Rabbi Bill said a moment ago, the achdus that is sensed, because we literally pick up children from every single school in this neighborhood, from public school, Brandeis, to every single yeshiva across the barriers. Because as we know, illness has no face, affects everyone, and we need to care for every single family appropriately. And that's a huge lesson that our boys and everyone for that matter learns very quickly. They brought to the program, Hafter's been very, very gracious. The lower school, we have all their facilities. The kids come, they're greeted one-on-one with a lot of the boys here, aside from the boys that are being honored today, who meet them and mentor them. And they have snack and they have homework help, and they have awesome activities, and we have dinner, and we have therapy when needed. And then they're driven back home afterwards. And we work with the families throughout the years. And our volunteers become more than mentors, become real big brothers for these kids. You know, to be a Baal Chesed, to be a Nedivei Lev, it takes a chinuch. Because you don't just become that. You need to learn what it means to give of your time, to give of your energies, of your strengths, of your money, to be able to give her. To be a giver is a real chinuch. To be a Nedivei Lev. So our boys, they came from years spending in this school and in their homes, obviously, where they learned this. And they come in and they work with children. Some of these children are very, very difficult. Some of these children come from, actually, the boys here, we have 2 very, very, very unique, special, caring, sensitive boys, Jason Selesny and Moshe Keller, who we're honoring today. I'm just specifically, there are 2 kids that they work with. Illness sometimes can come at very untimely times, where a family can be going through a divorce and you can have a child that's ill. And meanwhile, there's no structure or stability in the home to begin with, and then you throw illness into it, and it really rips the fabric apart of this entire family. And when you have a child that comes to our program that is struggling in school, that is struggling socially and emotionally, that is struggling in many different ways, and we're able to provide them that mentor, we're able to provide them that one-on-one real care, and for that matter, ensure that they're going to be successful in school and ensure they're going to be able to continue on. It's a lifesaver, literally a lifesaver. We have kids that were supposed to be held back from grades and we're able to push them forward. And it's because of guys like this who worked with these kids, work with kids who have either more than one child that's ill in the family, and they're little kids. They're in 2nd grade, and they're struggling to get attention, or they're being shuffled from one parent to the next. They're not able to ever feel that they actually count, that they have a point, they have a purpose. So I want to recognize, I want to tell you guys to come on up here, Jason Selesny, Moshe Keller. Thank you guys. They brought their A game. Not only bring their A game, but these guys were so caring and sensitive. These kids look literally forward to them every single week. I want to give you guys a question, and thank you so much for all of your volunteership.
like to introduce Mrs. Rebecca Mayer to present an award to Penny Questel, Ari Branswiegel, Yosef Neiman, Yoni Goldberg for the Yachad Youth Leadership. And also wish her a mazel tov on her recent wedding.
Good morning and mazel tov, graduates. It's been fortunate getting to work with so many of you, hosting, and just to echo what was said before, it's really amazing that this event exists. I think when I was on the phone, I didn't even realize that this is a full morning dedicated to chesed and the values that this school so strongly stands behind. It's really amazing. I had the fortune of meeting Ari Branswiegel, Yoni Goldberg, Penny Questel, and Yosef Neiman 2 years ago, along with a bunch of their peers that it's so great to see up here and in this room, as they were participants on Yachad's summer program in Israel for teens with and without disabilities called Yad Yad. Wanting to continue their involvement with Yachad and its ideals of inclusion, these 4 graduates joined Yachad's Youth Leadership Council, YLC, where they're elected to represent their schools and communities for 2 years. Leaders from about a dozen schools in the New York metropolitan area meet once a week in Manhattan, which isn't so easy when you have school on Sundays, to work on projects of change. Over the past 2 years, Ari, Yoni, Penny, and Yosef have worked to create and spearheaded many innovative projects and social opportunities. Some of them include a Be Human video campaign, which encouraged 40 people to make videos about different abilities that they each have. They worked to campaign and encourage people to stop misusing the word retarded. They ran a social media campaign that spread daily inclusion tips. They ran a video contest that encouraged people to creatively share what inclusion means to them and got over 6,000 voters to weigh in. They created and sold purposeful wearables for Yachad. They helped organize sport fundraisers. They participated in Yachad's national leadership training. They met with numerous politicians in Washington, D.C. to learn about and advocate on behalf of special education funding. They went to Albany to advocate on behalf of employment incentives for businesses that employ people with disabilities. They organized Sunday activities, including bowling, learning, barbecue, sport activities. Yoni, who's driving a car full of people today to the men's game. Movie nights, pizza making, cupcake wars that the Branswiegels just hosted a few weeks ago. So much more. They started authoring a book to help explain disabilities to young children, and the list continues. These graduates also helped organize DRS's first ever Yachad Shabbaton, Yachad's Hillcrest Shabbaton, and recruited runners for Team DRS's crew that joined Yachad in Miami for the marathon. While the list continues, it's the simcha, modesty, intentionality of these men that makes them so unique. These 4 boys have been pillars for Yachad over the past few years. Their commitment, ideals, creativity, smiles, motivation, and sense of purpose are inspiring. On behalf of Yachad, we thank DRS for their important and appreciated partnership. And we thank Ari, Yoni, Penny, and Yosef for everything that they've done on behalf of Yachad in spreading messages of inclusion. We wish them the best of luck in Israel and can't wait to hear about the amazing things that each of you continue to accomplish within your yeshivas, within your families, and within Yachad's Israel chapter. A big mazel tov to our awardees who will be receiving something special from Yachad and Minelisi. Sorry, I don't have it today. Wasn't ready. And a big mazel tov to their school, to their peers, and to their family.
I'd like to introduce Rabbi Zweidel, Judaic Director of Student Services and Administrator Kalanu, to present an award to Daniel Aaron.
behalf of Kulano, I would like to thank Metzger of Brazil for coordinating so many wonderful programs for our school, especially in Brazil, who I communicate with a lot of people over the year, whether it's through phone or email, and he always gets back to me right away, which I really appreciate. I have to chase after right away. When I come and do a program right away, he's there and gets back to me. I really appreciate it. I expressed it to him. This year at Kulano, we expanded our Judaic Studies program. We named it Torah Kulano, where we actually have an after-school Talmud Torah program for students with special needs. There's students in the community who don't have to go to Yeshiva because for certain disabilities, they go to public schools. Some students are alumni and they come to learn Torah from 3 to 5 in the afternoon. Next year we'll expand our program for young adults to have a night call out for adults with special needs. There's a need in the community, and look forward to expand more of our program. And in Kulano, we don't just focus on the academic piece, which is extremely important, of course, but we really focus a lot on socialization. Throughout the year, DRS has come multiple times. They came to do reverse inclusion minyanim, where they come, they make a minyan for our students, we do a little chagiga with dancing, for Shodah, for Yom Tif, and they do it because they really want to do it. You know, there's some people that do things, they get involved in special needs because they have to do it. My Rebbe told me that I had to do it, but they really do because they want to do it. They really come with a love, with a passion. And they come, it really means so much to our students. Our students really look forward to it. You see the smile on their face, that they're able to be involved with the mainstream population. This year, the past years also, they came to help build our sukkah. We actually have a bigger project next year because we got a big donation for a big sukkah. But it's not just about building the sukkah. It's not just about getting it up there. That's not the goal. The goal of mine is really socialization, that they do a project with our students, and they really do it with love. This year, we had a Kulano Shabbaton in Cedarhurst, and I was asking around, I needed chaperones, and right away, Brazil sent me 2 guys, Jonathan Craig and Graper, came, and they really did it with love and devotion, and it wasn't just about having a chaperone, it was really having somebody who's equal to our students, so they could socialize with them, and our students enjoyed it, and they really enjoyed it as well. Our most consistent program that we have every week, and this is something personally that I was involved in a few years ago, that I learned at the DRS Boys at Night, is our Mishmar. There's a Mishmar program, one Mishmar program. And I want to express my request to Daniel Aaron for coordinating with me. I look forward every week to the text message every Wednesday, telling me whether it's Mishmar or not. I also want to thank him. He did a tremendous tov in the beginning of the year. I put together some special Yeshiva Kulano. And this very busy time, during Lloyd Sukkot, not a lot of people were around, and he came out of his way by himself, and he came to schlep chairs for me, and he really did it with love, and I really appreciate it. It's a busy time, he could have done a lot of other things, so I appreciate that. So I'd like to present this award. I'd also like to give you a Kulano.
Associate Principal of the Yeshiva of Storage to present an award to Matthew Howler for his dedication to the Dvarim Yotzim Lev, DRS Weekly Torah publication.
First of all, mazel tov to all of our graduates, to all of our honorees who really have taken the crown of chesed and put it on their heads. They've really shown us how to truly be Baalei Chesed. But Befrat, I'm here to speak a little bit about our wonderful Torah publication, the Dvarim HaYotzim, which I saw originated in my shir in 1999, and I see it to continue in the community, to be a tremendous source of spreading Torah throughout all of the shuls in the community. The Gemara tells us, thank you, Nathan, the Gemara tells us, Pia Pascha B'chachma V'saras Chesed Al Lashona. The Torah's chesed is supposed to be on your lips. The Gemara asks, is there such a thing as a Torah that's not of chesed? And the Gemara gives 2 answers. But the second answer the Gemara gives is that the Torah that one keeps to himself, that's one level of Torah. The Torah that one spreads and percolates to other people, that ultimately is the true Torah's chesed. And the Dvarim HaYotzim in general is something that is truly a remarkable publication. You walk to any shul on a Friday night, you see everybody run to the bima to pick it up. They first turn to the back and read the stories. But eventually they get to the front and they share the words of Torah that are there written by our own students. And those Divrei Torah are shared in all of the tables in many people's homes in the 5 towns. And it's really, truly a chesed. And Queens, that's true. Probably Brooklyn as well. And Great Neck. Anybody else? Hempstead. Anybody else want to do a job? Even in Atlantic Beach. So it is spread far wider than anybody has noticed. And it's really a credit to the entire, every Friday there's always a buzz from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock over here by the table. I can't go to class because I have to disseminate the Torah publication. But the truth is the work starts a week before, getting the articles together, having people write, making sure it's edited, spreading it, getting it together, sending it to the printer, picking it up. And it truly is Matthew Haller who is the driving force behind the entire Torah Mayotza, making sure that each detail is accounted for, that all of this Torah can be spread. I believe it's 900 different publications are spread throughout the entire New York City, New York State region, as far as it goes. So anyway, it brings me a great pleasure to give this beautiful award, our Chesed awardee, for running the Torah Mayotza.
I'd like to introduce Mr. Gordon, Director of Development of Lev Leitzan, a medical clown program, who will present an award to Gidon Kadri.
Thank you very much. An article from Harafua magazine, or Harafua journal, medical journal, I thought it was appropriate to introduce Lev Leitzan and to remind people what Lev Leitzan does. This article that appeared in 2008 being Yom Yerushalayim, healing by the use of humor has become popular over the last few years and is used not only in alternative medicine, but also in conventional medicine in hospitals all over the world, particularly in the USA and Europe. This practice has been well implemented in pediatric wards. It is easier to make a child laugh than an adult. In the framework of healing by humor, use is made of a medical clown who is in fact a person who has undergone special training in acting and clowning combined with medical knowledge and an understanding of patient behavior. Some medical clowns come from the world of entertainment and are actors, clowns, and magicians. Some have a paramedical or medical background. Medical research demonstrates that medical clowns and humor have a positive effect on patients, etc., etc. Gidon is, as far as I know, not a doctor yet. He's not in theater yet, but has managed to take this chesed and elevate it to yet another level. I want to thank Rabbi Billet for, I was a little nervous about invoking a poem that was written after a visit from one of the medical clowns of Lev Leitzan. Laughter is the cure to many ails. When used correctly, it never fails. A sick child can laugh at a funny clown. A beautiful smile take away the frown. Laugh a little or laugh a lot. It's a wonderful feeling, is it not? When sadness comes, we look to the cause. If laughter can help, it's a welcome pause. When we smile, many smile with us, for happiness is one cure that can be contagious. Tears bring nothing but untold feelings, so we know the answer to what brings healing. Gidon epitomizes this poem, and as we just heard yesterday in yesterday's Parsha, talked about Yovel being the exercise of freedom, if you will, of the land, but also of the individual to go back to their particular parcel of land and to be with their families and to learn Torah and to do chesed. And if this morning doesn't have any greater impression on me than it leaves me with wanting to go home and figure out where I can fill in some of the holes in my own life to do chesed. So I'm personally grateful and part of the organization and very proud. Yeshiva, Gidon Kadri, please come up to accept the award.
I'd like to introduce Mr. Orlovsky to present an award to Yaakov Kamenetsky for 4 years of learning and mentoring his son.
About 5 years ago, when we relocated to Woodmere, our oldest son, Moshe, was having some difficulty, and he said, "Mom," that's who he goes to, "Mom, I can't keep up." And so Ariella called this help, and seeing how there's a true community school with the DRS plugged in there. We were lucky enough to get a 9th grader at that point to come and learn with Moshe. And you know, for 4 years, the bond that was built and the dedication that it takes to be there consistently and putting in the time and the extra time when needed, we've seen tremendous growth in Moshe, and there's always a sense of excitement that I know it's that night that Yaakov will be coming, because everybody, the whole family, does look forward to it. It comes with his way of calm and giving over, learning, teaching, and being the role model for everyone in the family, to see how, you know, with whatever's going on, this seemed to be a strong priority, and it resonated with Moshe and the family. We truly appreciate all that he's done, and we look forward to, God willing, Moshe and many of the other children coming through this community Yeshiva of DRS and growing in Torah, and looking forward to a lot of chesed and being able to provide similar heartfelt and meaningful keshers within the community. And I'd like to present this award to Yaakov Kamenetsky.
Last but not least, certainly not least, we'd like to introduce Mr. Fyvie Fuchs, who will present an award to Andrew Zucker, Ellie Goldberg, Jacob Naiman, Maury Rosenfeld, Jakob Schneider, Daniel Kimmel, Yaakov Kamenetsky.
I got permission to sit. Kindness. Chasod. Zecher Chazdei Avos. Odu Hashem Kitov Kili Olam Chazdo. Yichazlecha Hashem Aleinu, Chazdei Hashem, Vani B'chesed B'tachti, V'zocher Chazdei Avos. At the very beginning of Shemona Esrei, which we say 3 times a day, Aseh Imanu Tzedakah V'chesed V'hoshienu. Hu yigmalenu lo'ad v'chein chesed v'rachamim, as we bench every day. Hodol Hashem kitov, ki li'olam Costello, at a bris. 8 days old child, we remind him of Chesed. Rachem b'chaz lecha. That's just an introduction to Chasadim. But the truth is that now we start. What should have been, I understand I was given a half hour to speak, but I'll only speak for 5 minutes. Postum b'kvod Hatzanya. It is our distinct pleasure to thank Rabbi Kamenetsky and Rabbi Brazil, two beautiful individuals who have seen, next card, the art of Chesed as part of the curriculum of a Ben Torah. As a point of personal privilege, to be on the same program as my own Rabbi Billy, who is known in Eretz Yisrael and in America as a man of Chesed. I would say there isn't an organization in Israel or in America that doesn't see Chasadim from Rabbi Billy. But there is no greater happening this morning than to be on the program with my guys. They are my buddies and are at my home with commitment and regularity. I'd like to call on each of them, wonderful people, to join me as we present certificates of Chesed. I would also like to thank my great-nephews and my great-great-nephews who also are regulars at my home and who help me put on tefillin. Baruch Weissman, Mordechai Abitan, Jacob Isaacs. I have a lot of kids in school. Sorry. Jeremy Weiss and Daniel Weiss. And next year, our grandson, who are twins, will be joining PRS as well. So we thank you for all that you've done. And ladies and gentlemen, I now present my guy. Actually, it's questionable. All these guys usually come in with their shirts sticking out and their telephones in hand. So you gotta understand, seeing them in suits and ties and jackets, Fran, it will be okay. This is great.
Okay, just in conclusion, I must take a moment and give a very, very special thank you to Rabbi Brazil. Literally is, aside from being the brain center that somehow keeps, this is only a little bit, as everybody here knows, only a little bit of the chesed activities that we have that goes on here. To be the brain center that keeps all of the things going, and who also in his own private, quiet way that nobody knows on his own, takes care of so many different chesed opportunities and projects here in the neighborhood. So thank you to him. And really the main point to the whole yeshiva, one final moment here. The main point to the whole yeshiva is we saw today These are regular people taking of their time, doing regular small acts for other people, really making a tremendous difference. And we took time out of Yeshiva this morning, time out of Yeshiva to make the point to everybody here. And it's not just about these guys, there's many other guys in Yeshiva who do, but this is just a representation of things that people are doing day in, day out. And you get so much from giving, and we live in a society that focuses only on taking, what do I need, what am I entitled to, what can I get. And this morning we're trying to recalibrate everybody's thinking a little bit, to recalibrate the thinking towards what can I give, what can I do for others, how can I make other people's lives better, what can I do to help other people. This is obviously such an important part of Yad. So all the parents and grandparents, thank you so much for coming. Hope you got a lot of nachas this morning, and everybody please head to Shir. We'll